Hi everyone, welcome back to Robotics for All's Week 4 HTML and CSS curriculum. Today I'll be going over some more fun ways that you can style your HTML pages using CSS. I'll be going over borders, margins, padding, width, float, text align, and some new ways to implement colors into your style. I'll also be going over some more ways that you can use CSS in your pages. First, I'm going to be adding a border to one of my HTML elements. Over here, I have a paragraph within my body. If I wanted to add a border around this HTML element, within the style tag in the header, I am going to add border style, followed by the word solid to create a simple solid line around my HTML element. I can change the style of this border to a dashed line just by typing the word dashed and a dotted line. There are other ways that I can change the style. If I go to W3 Schools under CSS border, there are other ways that I can change the style. I can make it into a double line by using the word double. And this will create two lines around my HTML element. Next, if I wanted to change the width of this line, I can use border width. And what this will do is if I type a number followed by the letters px to indicate a pixel amount, and then I run that, then it will change the width of the border to match the amount of pixels that I have mentioned here. If I make it a smaller number or indicating less pixels, then the border will be thinner. But if I make it a bigger number, then it'll be a much thicker line. I can also change the color of my borderline with the command of border color. To this, I need to mention any known color, such as blue or red. The next two elements of CSS will be going over how to customize the space within your borders and outside of your borders. If this sentence is the content of my HTML paragraph, then the space that is between the border and my content is called the padding. I can customize this space by inserting the word padding followed by a pixel amount. This will change the amount of space within the HTML element. I can also change where I want the padding to stay. Just by saying the word padding, it has put 10 pixels of space on top of the element, on top of the content, but within the border, on the left of the content but the right of the border, below the content but above the border. And if this paragraph extended long enough, then there is some space on the left of the border and right of the content. If I only wanted there to be space on the left of the content and on the right of the border, then I can do padding left. This will only leave space on this end of the element. You can see that when I increase the amount, it will move it to the side. Over here, on the outside of my border, there is a space called margins. Just like padding, I can customize this value as well. To do so, I just need to type the word margin followed by any pixel amount, and then you can see that it places 30 pixels on the outside of this HTML element. To see this more clearly, I can insert another paragraph, and you will see that the space is between these two elements as well, because the margins are outside of this border. If I increase the margin to a higher number, then you will see that the space between this will increase just because the margin is between these two values, and that number will increase. If I wanted to, I can specify where I want my margins. If I wanted my margins only on the left-hand corner, and I didn't want them on the top or the bottom, then I can just put margin left. This will put the margins only on the left side of my HTML elements. I can do this with all of the sides. I can put it on the right, which will leave the space on the right side, and I can put it on the top, which will leave it on the top. Over here, there's space between the top of the HTML element and the top of this HTML element. Lastly, I can put it on the bottom as well, which will leave the space only on the bottom. Next, I can change the width of this whole element if I wanted to. If I typed the word width followed by another pixel amount, I made it 80, then this whole element will be 80 pixels across, just like this one. If I increase that number to 100, then it'll increase the space of the HTML element. It's important to mention that if I changed the width of this HTML element, then naturally the height will change with it to accommodate all of its content. But if I wanted to, I can change the height using CSS as well. If I type the word height followed by 100 pixels to make a square for both of them, then it'll add space to the bottom even if the content doesn't cover up till that amount. There's another property called flow, which will move the HTML elements to either the left or the right side of the page. We'll also move it to the left side of any other HTML element as well. For example, if I use the property flow and assigned it to the left, then what's going to happen is it's going to try to move this HTML element beside this HTML element. This is because it uses this HTML element as a basis to where it's going to position this HTML element. Now, if I put the word right, then I will move this HTML element to the right, and then this HTML element will be on this side. This is because, since this comes first, it will move it to the right. When this one comes, it will try to move it beside the other HTML element. Over here, within the content of my HTML element, you'll see that each word is starting from the left-hand side of the page of the HTML element. If I wanted it to be positioned in the center, I can use the property text align and set it to center. What this is going to do is it's going to center the text within each HTML element. If I put right, then it'll move everything to the right of the HTML element. So the way that you put colors in your HTML pages now is that you can find a color that you like in the known colors that HTML knows, such as blue, or some more complicated ones that you can put are cyan, turquoise, indigo, or dim gray. The way this works is if I find a color that I like, such as silver, and if I go to my HTML page and I put the word silver as the color of my border, it knows that this is a color, and it can implement that into the style of my border. But this can be extremely limiting. Say that I find a color that I like, such as crimson, but it's a little bit too red for me, or it's a little too dark. How can I change this color very slightly, but still mention it by name? Since all the colors in the world are not mentioned as one of these named colors, another way that I can name these colors and put them in my HTML pages is by using RGB. The way I can create virtually any color is using RGB. What RGB stands for is red, green, and blue. What this means is that I can create any color using red, green, and blue. In old-time computers, they would only have lights that would emit red, green, and blue lights. And because they wanted to show images that were more than 3 colors, what they did is they were able to change the intensity of the colors that they had, which were only red, green, and blue. With these 3 colors, they can make anything that they wanted. Imagine that you have a painting palette and you wanted to create the color purple. With that, if I were to change the value of red, which is one of the colors you need for purple, and blue, then you would see that you can get a purple. If I increase these values, then you will get a much darker purple. The higher you go up, the much brighter the color is going to be. Say that I find a color that I like. With this, I can change the RGB value of that color. I found blue-violet. Say that I like this color, but I wanted it to be a little bit less blue and a little bit more purple. I can take these values, 138, 43, 266, and I can alter them based on how much red and blue I want. Now, if I wanted this to be a little less blue, then I can simply change the amount of blue I have in it to a smaller number. What this is going to do is slightly alter the color and make it into a color that I'd rather have. Say that I like this color. How I would put this back into my code is I could remember these numbers, RGB 138, 43, 190, and go back into my code. Then I can change the value of any of my colors from RGB followed by parentheses, the first number, the second number, which is the green, and then the third number, following it by an end parentheses. Now when I run this, I can create any color that I want. Say that I wanted this to be less blue, then I can simply change the amount of blue in the color to make it more of a maroon. This is how I can use RGB instead of any color that you need. Lastly, I'm going to be going over another way to style your HTML pages. So you've all been taught how to use the header to style by using the curly brackets from the element name, but you can also use inline CSS. Now what this means is that if I wanted to change this paragraph and this paragraph only, then what I can do is I can go within the tag, type the word style, put equals, and then put a start and end quotation mark. Now I can put anything that I have put within here within this quotation mark. Say that I don't like the color of this HTML element. I can change the border color of only this paragraph to anything that I want. Say I wanted it to be pink. As long as I follow it with a semicolon, just like I would in the header, then it will change only this paragraph to have a pink border. What this does is it overpowers whatever I put in the header. If I wanted to change multiple things, such as the text align, then I can put that property within the quotation marks as well and type center. Now it'll move it to the center of the page, of the HTML element. The problem with inline CSS is that it can sometimes be a little too cluttered. Like if you look at this side of the code, then you can see that it's a little hard to read. It's much easier if your code is all in the header because it is listed in the form of a list and you can see everything that you're changing. While over here you sort of need to search for what you have changed. Over here I sort of implemented all of the styles and techniques that you learn in this video in a final HTML page. Over here you can see that I used margin padding, here's float, and I changed the border style to ridge, something that I didn't go over much, but it creates this unique pattern that looks a little 3D. I used RGB to create this teal blue color that didn't exist otherwise. I aligned all of the text in the center of its content, and I added margins to this first header to move it to the side a little bit, and I also added a border with the color being an RGB value. Over here, on the margins of borders and width and height, I put a margin to the left to set it aside from the rest of the page. So that just goes to show you how much you can really do with all of these different HTML elements. You can move them to the side, you can position them where you want to, you can really customize the color using RGB values. Using text align, you can put it all to the center. There's really no limit to what you can do using CSS. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video and have fun playing around with all of these new techniques. Thanks for watching. Bye.